This is Harry Enton, the chief data analyst at CNN. Recently, Harry appeared in the following segment about the economy.
CNN's Harry Enton is running the numbers on the state of inflation and the state of how people feel about it. I mean, how do Americans feel about inflation, how it's impacting their lives? Right?
They think prices are rising, and it's across different. Look at this. I mean, just your costs are up versus a year ago. Groceries, 85%. Utilities, 78%. Healthcare, 67%. Housing, 66%. Gasoline, 54%.
Now, the way this was presented, whether it was on purpose or not, is that Americans think that their grocery prices are 85% higher, their utilities 78% higher, and so on. But for clarity, registered voters were asked questions like, compared to a year ago, have your cost for certain items increased, decreased, or stayed about the same? 60% said groceries have increased a lot. 25% say they have increased a little. But again, the way this was presented was confusing. Even misinformation artist Aaron Rupar got fooled and posted the video claiming that grocery prices were going up 85%. After being called out on it, he deleted the original tweet and clarified that the numbers Harry Enton was citing came from a poll about how Americans feel. Now, what stuck out to me about the Fox News poll was the high percentage of respondents who feel that gasoline prices are higher compared to a year ago. And that is very strange, considering that when compared to a year ago, the national average price for a gallon of regular gasoline is slightly lower. And looking at all 50 states, only these 4 have higher prices compared to last year. In California, gas prices are higher in part because of a recent gas tax increase and required carbon reduction targets for fuel suppliers, which adds another 5 to 8 cents per gallon in compliance costs. Plus, in the last few years, California has closed several refineries, which has tightened supply. Gas prices have not dropped in Nevada and Arizona because they are tied to California's supply. So, hang on. If gas prices are lower in 46 out of 50 states, then why do a majority of Americans feel like they're higher? Well, maybe because questions about costs were shoehorned into a political poll. Questions like, do you approve or disapprove of the job Donald Trump is doing as president? Do you approve or disapprove of the way Donald Trump is handling the economy? Do you think Donald Trump cares about people like you or not? And of course, asking for one's opinion on Donald Trump is going to set the tone for one's answers on general questions about the economy. On a scale of excellent, good, only fair, and poor, how would you rate your personal financial situation? On a scale of excellent, good, only fair, and poor, how would you rate economic conditions today? So if you previously told the survey taker that you disapprove of President Trump's handling of the economy and that you have an unfavorable opinion of him, you're less likely to say, I rate the economy and my personal situation as good. And just look at the crosstabs. 65% of Kamala Harris voters say gas prices have increased, compared to 46% of Trump voters who say prices have decreased. Makes sense to me, what's your problem? And so Harry Enton, chief data analyst, didn't actually analyze the data. He just read the top line summary. Think about it. Why would so many people think that gas prices are higher than they were a year ago when it's not true? How much energy would it have taken to point that out? I mean, I was able to do it, and I'm not a multi-billion-dollar news organization. Next, Senator Amy Klobuchar posted this graph on X and wrote, under President Trump, electricity prices are surging, up 11%, leaving millions behind on their utility bills with past due balances at an all-time high. American families deserve better. Well, first of all, electricity prices are generally linked to local utility operations and state policies. For example, according to the Washington Post, in Texas, costs have risen 5.2%, while New Jersey's have risen by a whopping 26.8%. Again, how well a state is governed can make all the difference. Anyway, that graph that Senator Klobuchar posted came from a Washington Post article showing an analysis by the Century Foundation, a progressive left think tank, claiming that the average past due utility balance for the second quarter of 2025 was at $789, a $31 increase since the fourth quarter of 2024. But what the graph also shows is that from the first quarter of 2022 to the fourth quarter of 2024, the average past due balance increased from $597 to $758. In other words, the graph shows that Americans' difficulty with paying utility bills grew exponentially under Joe Biden's term in office. But great job, Senator Klobuchar. You're doing God's work. Then Elizabeth Warren posted, "Trump's tariffs are making your Thanksgiving more expensive," along with a graphic claiming that prices for the classic Thanksgiving staple known as elbow pasta is up by 13%. Now, the source of that graphic is progressive left think tanks, the Century Foundation, and the Groundwork Collaborative. And surprise, surprise, they're being dishonest. The source of the graphic is again the Century Foundation. I need to point out that they aren't talking about the price of elbow pasta in general. They listed the Cecco elbow pasta, which is made in Italy. Of course, there are other brands like Ronzoni or Barilla, which manufacture their elbow pasta right here in the United States and aren't affected by Trump's tariffs. And what about the claim that the price of fresh turkey is 36% higher because of tariffs? According to the Century Foundation, Trump's tariffs have driven up the cost of feed, and avian flu has further thinned an already shrinking flock, now at its lowest level in 4 decades, squeezing American farmers and consumers alike. Also contributing to the 40-year low in supply is the avian metapneumovirus, which causes turkeys to lay fewer eggs. But sure, it's the tariffs. And the Century Foundation's report contradicts itself. First, they claim that shoppers can't escape rising poultry prices, but then admit that frozen turkey prices are essentially the same as they were last year. Yeah, look, you could take the word of the sponsors of this report, 2 progressive think tanks, and the American Federation of Teachers for some reason. Or you could look at data from the American Farm Bureau Federation. According to their 40th annual Thanksgiving dinner survey, the cost of a typical Thanksgiving dinner is down 5% compared to 2024. And with that said, 6 of the 12 items on the list are down this year, including the cost of a 16-pound turkey. So the good news is that prices have fallen compared to Thanksgivings under the Brandon administration. But the question is, do you remember the Century Foundation or other left-wing organizations spitting out reports about rising costs, or Elizabeth Warren tweeting about her concern about elbow pasta? Yeah, neither do I. Because remember, folks, Democrats only started to pretend about caring about affordability when they realized it might help them win in the midterms. Anyway, that's it for now. If you want to support the channel, head over to my very affordable merch store at don'twalkrun.shop. As always, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time, if there is next time.